nice. My Kansas heart is very happy with all the country this morning. I appreciate it. So today's talk is called So Much Noise. You notice that we live in a bit of a noisy world. There's a literal and metaphorical noise, right? You go outside and you hear sounds of traffic. Maybe you constantly have the radio playing. There's noise coming from the television. There's noise right now as a motorcycle drives by. So there's a literal noise, and then there's also metaphorical noise, which is noise is anything that's not relevant, that's not important to you and where you're at right now. And we have a whole lot of that type of noise too, don't we? I mean, think about how different your daily life is now than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you didn't carry a device in your pocket or in your purse every single day where the entire world can get a hold of you with beeps and vibrates whenever they wanted. 24-hour news cycle with alerts and notifications going on nonstop. Now on YouTube, we can seek out the type of content we're looking for, but then we still have to watch ads. So much more noise that we have now in this day and age than we used to. And all of these different things that are competing for our attention. In his book, Callings, author Greg Lavoie says, if all our moments are filled with words and thoughts, with noise, however joyous, then when it comes time to convey our deepest intuitions, when our lives demand guidance from within, we'll be speechless. He's urging that the world is so noisy, that there's so much words, so many thoughts, so much noise, that if we don't take the time to tune in with ourselves, when we really need that inner direction, we won't know what it is. We won't be able to hear it. We won't be able to hear that still, small voice within. You know, they've done a lot of research over the past 60 or so years since psychology became an official discipline on how the human brain works. We've learned a lot of amazing things, and they've done a lot of research onto how you capture human attention and how you motivate somebody to take action. Now, guess where the number one place that we're using all of that great information is? It's in advertising and marketing, right? So things that are surprising or emotionally charged catch your attention and draw you in. That visuals are processed faster than words, and there's certain colors, like dark blue, gives a sense of luxury. So you might notice that some luxury brands often have dark blue in their logos, or red inspires you to take action. So even what colors or what type of font they use in marketing can subliminally inspire us to take action or to believe something about what we're seeing. And then there's social proof, that we're wired to follow others. And so when you see a celebrity that you really like endorsing a product, you're more likely to buy it. So all of this research that we've done into how our humans' brains work, and they're using it to try and get us to buy more things or to spend more time on their website so they can put more advertisements in front of us to make more money. This is the noise that we're competing against when we're trying to stay centered and true to who we are, when we're trying to be led by Spirit. We have to be aware of all of this noise going on around us and how easy it is for us to be led by that noise. How easy it is to take actions out of reacting to all of this stuff that's going on, rather than making a conscious choice of what is mine to do. What is my purpose? How can I respond rather than react? How can I make a choice that feels purposeful and not just click buy now because the button is red? So today we are talking about all of this noise and what we can do to stay connected and purposeful in a noisy world. So I was reflecting recently about my first job out of college. I worked for a nonprofit and they were growing, so it was a new position that they created for technology and digital marketing. So I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but when you first go into a new job, the first couple weeks, maybe the first couple months, you don't really have a whole lot to do, right? You're still kind of learning and training and learning the ropes and meeting people and figuring out all the ins and outs. So your plate's, kind of empty. So that was my experience, especially this being a new position. I spent the first few weeks really just dreaming up what I wanted to do, learning about the nonprofit and putting my spin on things of what can I do to help them be more successful and what are our goals here and doing research. Now, I don't know if this comes as a surprise to anybody, but I'm a bit of an overachiever. So within probably just a month or two, all of a sudden I found my plate was really, really full. Not only was I doing my job, I had invented new jobs for myself. And I was serving as the liaison to multiple committees, the staff liaison to multiple committees for this nonprofit. And one day I was sitting at my desk and I had Outlook open and I saw my calendar, and my calendar was just completely full. And I heard this voice within me that says, "You need some white space." And I love that because white space on our calendar is time that is unstructured. It's time where we're not committed to doing something for somebody else, where we don't have plans, we don't have a project we have to work on, just empty, open, white space. When you have white space in your day, those are the times where you can let your mind do whatever your mind wants to do, where you can daydream. Have you ever heard that or experienced that you often find the answers to the problems that you've been struggling with when you're in the shower? Because you're not paying attention to the noise. You're not filling that free time with a podcast or a text to read or a book to read or a song to listen to or a project to take on or a knitting project to finish. When you're there, you're just there. I mean, I know our phones are waterproof, but I'm hoping most of us are just leaving that behind when we're in the shower. So having white space allows our ideas, our inspiration, our guidance, that voice of spirit to bubble up from within us. In fact, researchers at Harvard have actually found that having silent, non-focused time, where you're not taking in anything from the outside world, you're just being, actually helps stimulate creativity. So what I found was that white space was not just a luxury, white space was a necessity. That yes, I had all of these things that I had to do. I had this long to-do list now in my job, but I was not as effective and creative in my job if I didn't also plan to have white space. White space is also when we can engage in play. One definition of play is a seemingly purposeless activity. Play is a time where we engage curiosity, where the rules are flexible, where we're not afraid to fail, where we're willing to take risks, and where if something catches our attention, we just go for it. I heard somebody tell this story where they were talking about, young kids, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that are playing soccer or some type of league sport. And you'll see the kids out there playing, and then somebody will say, "Ooh, a daisy." And they'll go and they'll pick up a daisy off the ground. And then the parents are like, "What are you doing? Kick the ball." When really what the child's doing is engaging in curiosity, engaging in true play, wonder, a purposeless activity, which really deep down serves a huge purpose to reconnect us with that truth of who we are. I think a whole lot of life is unlearning everything that we learned in the first 5 years of our life. Yeah, getting back to being a child. Sometimes when we have white space in our day, at least I know this is true for me, it's hard to resist the temptation to fill it. Like I have white space, but I want to scroll my phone. Now seems like a good time to text that person back. Or I want to find something to keep myself busy. Laundry needs to be done. Maybe I can do the dishes real quick. So we tend to distract ourselves when we have this white space and fill it with busyness that feels productive, but is really just keeping us addicted to the noise of the world. Noise distracts us from being fully present, from being fully in tune to ourselves and this now moment, which is the only moment that we have. Maybe we even use noise to avoid feeling our feelings. Then when we're feeling a little uncomfortable, we go to the kitchen to make a snack. And we use that noise to distract us from the stillness that we're really needing. H. Emily Cady, who's the author of a book called Lessons in Truth, which is used as a textbook in Unity, says noise belongs to the outside world, not to God. God works in the stillness. She goes on to say that it is in the stillness that we can become conscious of that inner, invisible working of spirit. It is in the stillness that we become aware of our oneness, of our connection to the divine, and we can know and sense the fulfillment of all that we desire. So there's so many things in the outside world calling for our attention. Sometimes other people's needs and expectations create our to-do list. Anybody ever experienced that? Busy. Don't look at your wife. Being busy feels productive, right? So we make this long to-do list because we feel like, oh, I'm doing something, I'm accomplishing something. We get addicted to that dopamine rush of checking off the boxes on our to-do list. I know I do. I even color code them. That's how much I'm into that. Yeah? But when we do all of these different things to distract ourselves, when we fill our lives with noise and don't take time in the quiet to reflect, we lose sight of why we're doing those things. Why are those things on my to-do list? And are they truly important? Which is really asking the question, am I creating my life or am I reacting to what life throws at me? And there's a big difference between being a conscious creator and an unconscious reactor. So the more noise that we experience in our life, the harder it is to see clearly. I have an image I want to share with you. Now, if you have an old picture from film, like a 35 millimeter film, or what were those old cameras where like it flipped up top and you held it down here and had a Rollo something? What was it called? Rolleroid. Oh, a Polaroid. Oh, yeah. I guess they were Polaroids too. So if you've got an older photo, you'll notice that over time it gets really grainy, right? And it's hard to see. It kind of distorts the image. All of that little black graininess in photography, that's actually called noise. That's what they call it, is noise, because it's something that takes away. It's noise. It's not related to the purpose of the picture. So if you had an image like this that was filled with noise, you notice you can kind of tell what it is, like we're in a forest here, right? But it's kind of not crisp, hard to see. So if you wanted to make this better, if you wanted to see more clearly, you would go through a process called noise reduction. And when you do that, here's what happens. So noise makes it hard to see clearly. And so sometimes what we have to do is go through a noise reduction process in our own lives. So what ways can you reduce the noise in your life? And I'm talking about the literal and the metaphorical noise. Maybe you need a media detox. This is where you set a specified amount of time where you don't take in any media. No audiobooks, no podcasts, no YouTube videos, even the spiritual ones. No reading, no news, no TV, no music, a media detox. I know someone who started with an hour. 1 hour a week, she would do a media detox. She now does 3 months every year. So she's worked up to that. And if you start with an hour a week and then you end up with 3 months out of your year, I think that means that it's probably pretty powerful. That you can really reset your nervous system and your entire way of looking at the world by having dedicated time where you're blocking out the noise. How many people, when you get in the car, the radio is always playing? So maybe one day we take a drive without any noise, without any radio playing, without the news on. Maybe when you would normally sit and grab your book to relax, you instead just sit and don't grab the book. Maybe you look at your to-do list and take a review of how many of these things are things I want to do and how many of these things are things that other people are asking me to do, and start cutting out some of those things that aren't important. So finding ways to get rid of some of the noise in our life is an important first step. And taking regular times in our days and in our weeks without all of this noise, sitting in silence, activates what's called our default mode network, or DMN, in our brain, which our DMN is essential to creativity, self-reflection, and long-term planning. So creating white space, no media, no noise in our days. H. Emily Cady, in that same book, has this quote. She says, "There is but one source of truth, and that is the spirit of truth at the center of your own being. Cease now from seeking the truth through reading books or from the teachings of others." I love that quote, and I agree with it. Like, don't even listen to me. The only reason anything I say does anything for you is because it resonates with the truth that's already inside of you. And so H. Emily Cady is pointing out the very real scenario where sometimes with a heartfelt seeking of truth, of spirit, we go to teachers and wise people and shamans and mystics and all of these other people thinking that they have some secret that we don't. And she says, cease now from seeking the truth out there, because the only place that you will really find it is right in here. So we can cut out some noise in our life, and then we want to spend some time in the silence. Some time in meditation where we are seeking spirit just for the sake of communing with spirit. Just 10 minutes a day in silence reduces your cortisol levels, so reduces stress, improves your memory, and helps you better regulate your emotions. And that's not even including all of the spiritual benefits of spending that time in the silence. So noise isn't just what you hear out there. We also have noise going on in here, right? Does anybody have a mind that's just quiet all the time? No? So we always have this chatter going on in our mind. And what I find for myself is that sometimes when I have a life filled with a lot of noise, even when I take time away to the silence, that noise kind of echoes. Have you ever been to a concert? The music's so loud, and then for like 24, 48 hours afterward, your ears are still ringing? Yeah. Or if you watch a TV show on Netflix, and then that night you dream about it. So sometimes that outside world noise sticks with us, and even when we remove ourselves from it, it's still made its imprint in us. So that's where our tool of affirmative prayer becomes extremely helpful. Because if our minds are saturated with this outside noise, we can use affirmative prayer to resaturate our brains with the truth that we want to see. Sometimes it's hard to go from noise to complete quiet without having that echo. So affirmative prayer helps us replace that noise that's coming from the outside world that tells us stories about fear and lack and uncertainty and not enough and not good enough and never could, and replace those messages with messages that we choose. So taking time in silence and using affirmative prayer to retrain our brains helps us tune out the noise and affirm the truth. It helps us create and respond to life in a grounded way rather than reacting to the noise that's coming at us. And it helps us to stimulate our power of imagination. Remember, we need white space, unstructured, silent time in our day to really let our creativity flow. And that's where we can use our power of imagination, that spiritual, divine power to create. Everything that exists, from the chair that you're sitting on, to the clothes that you're wearing, to the food that you're going to eat after this, only exists because it was first an idea in someone's mind. Through the power of your mind, you can use that power of imagination to hold on to an idea, give energy to it, and then see it outpictured in the physical world. But we can only do that when we have gotten rid of the noise and given ourselves that white space to let our imagination soar. And then we can choose. Instead of listening to the noise that tells me to fear, I can choose to create a world of peace and faith. Instead of listening to the noise that tells me I have so much to be worried about, I can affirm and choose that I am centered in spirit and I have everything that I need in each and every moment. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, says if you can imagine that it is possible to God, it is also possible to you. So what do we do in a noisy world? We quiet down the outer noise. We find ways to reduce the amount of literal and metaphorical noise that we're taking in each day. We spend regular time in the stillness, in the silence, to commune and reconnect with God. We use affirmative prayer to direct the energy of our mind towards what we wanted to create rather than reacting to the noise outside. And we use our power of imagination, knowing that imagination is a divine spiritual quality that we possess, that we can use to create what we want to see in the world. So even in a noisy world, we can create space for stillness. And in that stillness, we can reconnect with our divine power. So I have an affirmation for us to use this week. I turn down the noise and I tune into the truth. I turn down the noise and tune into the truth. Will you say that with me? I turn down the noise and tune into the truth. And so it is. Let's move now into meditation. So I invite you to start tuning out the noise, to pay attention to how your body feels as you take this moment to consciously choose to give yourself comfort, to give yourself silence, to give yourself peace. Let's take a deep breath in and out. As we settle into the stillness and the silence of this moment, we do so with a mindset of play and curiosity. As our mind does what it does, wanders this way and that, gets stuck on this or something else, we just smile and notice it. Notice our mind doing what it does. No need to control it, but to just allow it. Let's take another breath in and out. And as you begin to move your awareness from that outside world, from that outside noise, into those inner sensations, that inner knowing of truth, notice that that deep stillness is right there within you. Some days the chatter of your mind or the outside sounds may cover it up, and yet it is always, always there. So I invite you to tune in, shifting your awareness, your mind's eye, to the space around your physical heart. Imagining that space being bathed in a beautiful, brilliant red light. Feeling the energy move slowly through your body. As you relax and rest in this stillness. Brain, heart, and breath all connected together. The breath of spirit flowing through and as you. We're going to move now into another song. So I invite you to stay with your eyes closed or gaze lowered if you would like, and allow the song to gently bring you out of it. Or if you're ready for some little bit of joyful noise, you can start stretching your neck and your ankles and come on back.